Welcome to the S4OM S4OE Speaker Spotlight Series. These short conversations are designed to introduce you to the brilliant clinicians, educators, and researchers joining us at the summit, not just for what they teach, but for who they are. Today, I'm joined by Cynthia Price, and I'm so excited for you to hear their voice and perspective before the event. Welcome, Cynthia. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So, before we talk about your session, I'd love to give people an idea just about who you are. When people see your credentials, they see the professional. What personal experience shaped your path the most?
I was in private practice as a massage therapist for about 20 years, and it was who my clients were. I had a word of mouth practice. But it just so happened that most of my clients were women. Most of my clients came in with a lot of emotional distress. And then over time, because of word of mouth and how things just happened, most of my clients over time were women who were in psychotherapy for recovery from childhood sexual abuse, quite significant abuse. And so they were very disconnected from their bodies. So working with my clients and learning from them shaped where I went more than anything else.
You've been doing this a long time. What keeps you passionate about the work?
I am so passionate about this work. I every time I teach, I am so excited and inspired by watching and hearing and sort of witnessing practitioners gain more skills and and work on their own processes that allow them to then deepen the work that they'll do with their clients. And I find that, it's an honor to be a part of that process and to
Mhm.
feel like it's going to spread out to so many people. And that just com- totally keeps me inspired and passionate about this work. Yeah.
That's really wonderful. That's really wonderful. And from the educational side, I can totally understand kind of watching
Mhm.
people be changed by what they
Yeah.
learn,
Yeah.
which of course impacts what they do.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about your presentation. Why is interoception foundational to the healing process?
So I'm going to answer that in more ways than one.
Okay, okay.
So from a really experiential level of being a body worker and doing sort of somatic therapeutic work, what I have seen in terms of why it's so foundational for healing is that it empowers people because they have a new sense of themselves when they're more in touch and with their bodies and feel more embodied. So that's the experiential sort of being a practitioner piece about that. From a more conceptual, maybe academic perspective, we now really understand that the sensory processing in our brains is so much related to whether we can really take in the information from our bodies and integrate it and process it, and that people need help learning to do that if they're living with a lot of experiential avoidance, which folks do when they've got chronic pain, when they're struggling with mental illness, when they're
Mhm.
really stressed. We all do. And so having better capacity for knowing how to take in that information from our bodies and work with ourselves with it is something everyone can benefit from. And we now really know that scientifically.
You probably touched on this a little bit in that response, but so many people are disconnected from their bodies. Why does this happen?
I mean, I think the most general answer to that that applies across the board for wherever we all come from in terms of how is it we naturally as human beings cope with distress by distracting ourselves from it in order to just keep going, right? So whether it's physical pain or emotional pain, and that is a wonderful capacity we have so that we can keep going to work. We can take care of our children. We can do what we have to do to get through the day. We can survive when we're in situations that are really threatening, right? And at the same time, those patterns over time often continue when they're no longer serving us. And that is when people often come into recovery. They're like, I'm not connected to myself in a certain way that I want to be, or I know would help me be more healthy. And I don't know what to do about it. And so that's when someone like me, who, if I was in practice, would see someone like that, right? So anyway, those that's why I think it mostly happens for people, how we get disconnected and why we stay disconnected, and then why we might go back to saying, "Hey, wait a minute, I don't know how I'm feeling. I'm not dealing very well with stress in my life. I'm acting in ways that I'm unhappy with. I want to change them." Right? That's what leads people into seeking more help.
So, what does presence in the body actually feel like?
Presence in the body. It feels like, if I were to talk about myself as an example, that I can move my attention into my body and notice how it feels on the inside. So that's what interoceptive awareness is, the capacity to notice how you feel on the inside. And those can be physical sensations, they can be linked to emotional sensations. So, what presence in the body feels like is the capacity to notice those things.
That's beautiful and so well said. We overemphasize how we feel sometimes without a real connection to what we're feeling or how we're
Mm.
feeling. All right, one last question before we close. What would you say to clinicians who feel intimidated by this work?
So, a lot of times, if people are feeling intimidated about this work, I think sometimes the background question is this outside of my scope of practice? Will I be having to really process people's emotions and move into what we might think of as psychotherapy? And my response to that is as long as we're paying attention to present moment awareness and sensation and bringing back what we hear, to what's happening in the person with the person in their body right now, that we're not out of scope of practice. Our clients bring in all sorts of things they tell us all the time, right? And so a lot of it is how we manage what they tell us in the moment, and also knowing when do we refer someone? How do we work with another clinician who might be their psychotherapist? Right? Just feeling like we have the capacity to stay in our own lane and also support someone to do the work they need to do. So I would say yes, it's a new set of skills. Yes, it can be intimidating to learn a new set of skills, but these skills really match the realm of body work, which is about being in our bodies and noticing sensation and being in the moment with ourselves. And that's what this work is all about.
I love that perspective. And I think that will answer that question for a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know." Cynthia, thank you so much for being here and for the work you're bringing to this summit. It's gonna be an amazing event, and I'm so excited to hear you speak. And I know what you have to share is really going to enlighten people who are listening. So thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
This is just a glimpse of the depth that Cynthia will bring to their session. We can't wait for you to experience it in full, and we'll see you in a little bit at the summit. Have a wonderful day.
If this conversation resonated with you, it's just the beginning. This episode is part of our Healing Summit speaker series, leading up to the 2026 Virtual Oncology Massage and Aesthetic Healing Summit, happening on April 26th. Each week, we're sharing conversations with our speakers, offering a deeper look into the work, the perspective, and the heart behind what they'll be teaching. If you're feeling inspired, I invite you to join us live. It's a full day of learning, connection, and collaborative growth in oncology-informed care. You can explore the full summit and save your spot at s4om.org. Until next time, thank you for being a part of this community and for the care you bring into the world.